My own radar started picking up items going 3,000-4,000 miles an hour in this area.
But I do remember speeds in excess of 4,000 to 5,000 miles an hour.
And he said it was traveling 10,000 miles plus.
And they were going somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 to 14,000 miles an hour.
They covered the distance from Columbus to Detroit in something like equivalent of about 20,000 miles an hour.
And I heard a couple women there in the Air Force talking about aircraft flying in and out of the atmosphere in Mach 10 plus.
It's not an infrequent occurrence out there. They have them quite often.
There were probably 1,500 reported cases at that time.
I have over 3,000 cases now.
They estimated 100 yards from the left wing was this 100-foot disc.
And the strength of the signal was as strong as the surface contact on the water of an aircraft carrier. This contact was huge.
The size of these objects around 100 meters or greater.
So it would go from 1 o'clock, 7 or 8 miles to 6, 7 o'clock, 7 or 8 miles inside of 4 or 5 seconds. You have to be moving pretty quickly.
They could rise, just go straight up. They could do that, just seemed like instantaneous.
Once they started moving, they went straight up, for a while, and then they went zap.
Then it just sort of disappeared. It dematerialized.
And left the atmosphere, just was gone. It just took off into space.
It just left at high speed.
He said, "You are never to speak of this again. As far as you're concerned, this never happened."
And you never saw this, and I don't exist, and this situation never happened.
I didn't want to look at it any longer than that because I felt that my life was in jeopardy.
So I was beaten, literally hitting in the ribs and pushed, and I was resisting. And I know Sergeant Bustinza was doing the same thing.
Measures have been taken by agencies to terminate people who appear to be inconvenient or troublesome through knowing too much.
A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself.
I am prepared to state that I have been at locations where craft of unknown origin that did not originate on the face of this planet was there. I am prepared to state that while I was there, we saw living, dead bodies of entities that were not born on this planet.
My name is Dr. Stephen Greer. I am the director of the Disclosure Project, which is a project of the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. This is a project which we have been working on since 1992, and during this time we have identified over 400 military, intelligence, and corporate witnesses to special access projects within the United States and elsewhere that deal with what the public has called UFOs, extraterrestrial intelligence, and advanced energy and propulsion systems. The purpose of this executive briefing is to put together some of this witness testimony. I want to emphasize that out of the over 400 witnesses whom we have identified, that we have interviewed to date on camera approximately 100. Of those, 120 hours of videotape have been created of testimony from these witnesses. This executive summary
strange lights, a sense of missing time, memories of unearthly beings, Claims of alien abduction are one of the more perplexing phenomena of the 20th century, sometimes called close encounters of the fourth kind. These experiences are said to involve humans taken aboard UFOs by aliens. In the past 30 years, there have been thousands of reports which cry out for an explanation. A logger claims he was abducted in the woods by space aliens and dropped off on the side of the road 5 days later. A performer from New York City reports being carried onto a giant UFO while his fiancée sat paralyzed in the car. Under hypnosis, a couple remember watching in horror as small gray beings snatched their baby from her crib. And two horse breeders tell fantastic stories of their meetings with aliens ever since they were little girls. There is no evidence to substantiate any of these claims, but thousands of ordinary Americans tell remarkably similar stories. Some people say these are hoaxes. Others believe they are earnest delusions. But for the rest, it's one of the great mysteries of our times.
So blown away by that I was kind of like catatonic for a while.
These illustrations by crew boss Mike Rogers depict Travis's account of the events of the missing 5 days. Travis remembers waking up in the spaceship on a table in a sterile room, feeling tremendous pain in his upper body. Suddenly, he says, he was looking squarely into the faces of horrible creatures.
It was the most terrifying sight of my life. They were sort of human-like in form, 2 arms and 2 legs, and like that, the human arrangement of features, but they were definitely not human. The eyes, they just seemed to look right into me. There was a sort of an indifference there that I found very frightening.
Travis says he sat up, screaming at them to get away from him. He grabbed a nearby object and swung at the creatures who backed out of the room.
I was screaming all sorts of threats at them, and I was prepared to, fight my way past them to escape.
Travis describes being taken to a domed room that looked like a planetarium. When he pushed the buttons on a chair that seemed to be in the middle of space, he could see the stars. A human-like creature appeared and led him to another room where he encountered similar beings. He says he was eventually led out into a giant hangar that contains smaller spacecraft. My God, he remembers thinking, the sweet Earth could be millions of miles away.
It's presented, and I have been told, this is your child. It looks like a cross between human and them. I don't feel like it's mine. I don't relate to it.
I remember them presenting me with children they tell me are mine, and they want me to hold them, and I won't, and I've dropped them.
Both skeptics and believers wonder why extraterrestrials would so aggressively manipulate the lives of Beth and Anna. Anna says she has seen visions of the destruction of the Earth by earthquakes, windstorms, and fires. She says the aliens have her in intense training to learn to fly alien spacecraft, and assumes this training will enable her to leave the planet if these terrible times come to pass.
This is where I at least feel I get to pilot the ship.
People are physically missing from their normal environment. Police have been called, search parties have been sent out, distraught mothers have been in hysterics, where's my children? All of this is part of the abduction phenomenon. And not only that, people come back with unusual marks on their bodies and scars on their bodies that weren't there literally the day before or an hour before.